Agenda setting. Agenda setting occurs when media outlets like news organizations influence public opinion by repeatedly and prominently covering certain topics. Essentially, they have the power to give certain subjects more attention. Appeal to fear. This tactic involves leveraging feelings of fear and anxiety to garner support for a particular viewpoint. By instilling a sense of dread about potential consequences, proponents aim to sway others to their side. The inevitable victory. Inevitable victory is a strategy that persuades individuals to join a particular movement or cause by emphasizing the certainty of success. Those already on board are reassured of their decision, while others are enticed to join what appears to be a winning team. Join the crowd. In this approach, individuals are urged to partake in an activity or support a cause because it's popular or trendy. The idea is to create a sense of FOMO and encourage widespread participation. Beautiful people. Typically employed in advertising, this technique features attractive or influential figures endorsing a product or idea. By associating success with the endorsement, it suggests that adopting the promoted item or belief will lead to good outcomes. The big lie. The big lie technique relies on the belief that people are more likely to believe a really big lie than a small one, partly because it's so outrageous that others might struggle to even begin disapproving it. Classical conditioning. If you have a dog and always ring a bell before feeding the dog, that's classic conditioning. The dog understands every time you ring that bell, it's eating time. It's when a natural reaction to something gets linked with a new thing enough times that just a new thing can trigger the same reaction. Cognitive dissonance. This sneaky tactic takes advantage of our natural urge to stay consistent. For instance, if someone finds out that a group doesn't like their political candidate but loves a certain actor, they might use the actor's support for the candidate to try to change people's minds. Plain folk. Imagine a politician who tries to act like an ordinary person, doing regular stuff in the backyard or at a local shop. That's plain folk propaganda. It's all about convincing people that the propagandist is just like them, using familiar language and style to gain trust. Cult of personality. This happens when someone uses the media to build up a larger-than-life image of themselves, often by surrounding themselves with praise and admiration. Then they use this image to push their own agenda or ideas. Demonizing the enemy. This is when someone portrays people from the other side as less than human, worthless, or downright bad. It's a way to make them seem like they're not even worth considering as equals. Demoralization. This type of propaganda aims to weaken the fighting spirit of the enemy, making them more likely to give up or switch sides. It's like trying to break their morale so they lose the will to keep fighting. Dictating. This technique aims to simplify decision-making by telling people exactly what to do through images and words, leaving no room for other choices. It's like being given a command without any option to consider. Disinformation. This involves spreading false information or altering records to create fake version of events or actions. It can include things like doctoring photos or videos, as well as making up stories or altering documents to deceive people. Divide and rule. This strategy involves gaining and keeping power by splitting up larger groups of power into smaller, weaker parts, by dividing people or organizations so that you can control them more easily. Euphemism. This is when we use a mild or indirect word or phrase instead of a harsh or unpleasant one. It's like using a softer way to say something that might be offensive or uncomfortable. Euphoria. This is when something really exciting or happy happens, like a big celebration or a special event, and it's used to boost people's spirits or morale. For example, a military parade with music and patriotic messages might make people feel proud and happy about their country. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is when someone tries to make people doubt their beliefs or ideas by spreading negative and false information. It's like trying to make others anxious or unsure about what they believe in. Firehose Falsehood. This is a propaganda tactic where a lot of false messages are spread quickly and repeatedly through various channels like news and social media. The goal is to overwhelm people with lies and make it harder for them to know what's true. Flag waving. This is when someone tries to justify their actions by saying it's not for the good of their country or group. It's like saying we're doing this because it's patriotic, even if the action might not really benefit everyone. Flak. Flak is when someone tries to discredit or question commonly accepted ideas or beliefs. It's like throwing doubt on what everyone else thinks is true. Foot in the door technique. This is often used by salespeople or recruiters. They start by asking for something small, like giving a small gift, and then gradually ask for the bigger favors. It's a way to get someone to agree to something bigger by making them feel indebted for the small favor they've already accepted. Framing. This happens when someone presents facts or arguments in a way that influences how people perceive them. It's like putting a certain frame around the information to make it seem more favorable to one side of the argument. Gish Gallop. This is when someone bombards their opponent with a bunch of really complicated questions in quick succession during a debate. The goal is to make the opponent look confused and unprepared. Glittering generalities. These are fancy words or phrases that sound really good but don't actually mean much. They're used to make something seem appealing without providing any real substance or evidence. Guilt by association. This is when someone tries to make you dislike an idea or action by saying it's popular among groups you already don't like. It's like saying you shouldn't support it because bad people like it too. Half-truth. This is when someone tells you something that's partly true but leaves out important details or twists the truth a bit. It can be misleading because it doesn't give you the full picture. Informative overload. This happens when someone gives you way too much information all at once, making it really hard to understand what's going on or make a decision. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose of facts. Intentional vagueness. This is when someone says something so unclear or vague that it could mean almost anything. They do this to avoid answering questions or to distract from important issues. Paltering. This is when someone tells the truth but only part of it to deceive others. It's like giving some facts but leaving out the ones that don't help your case. Pensee Unique. This is when discussions are limited by using really simple phrases or arguments, which stops deeper conversations from happening. Quotes out of context. This is when someone only shows part of a quote, leaving out the rest of it to change its meaning. It's like taking someone's words and twisting them to fit your own narrative. Rationalization. This is when people come up with logical surrounding reasons to explain away their own bad behavior or feelings. It's like making excuses for yourself instead of facing the truth. Repetition. This is when something is said or shown over and over again to make sure people remember it. It's like drilling a slogan into your head so you can't forget it. Scapegoating. This is when someone blames another person or group for something they didn't do, to take attention away from the real problem or to avoid feeling guilty themselves. Labeling. This is when someone uses a mean or disrespectful word or phrase to describe someone, something, or a whole group. It's like giving them a negative nickname to make them seem bad. Latitudes of Acceptance. Sometimes to get someone to agree to something they don't really like, people start by suggesting an extreme idea. Then, when they propose the actual idea they want to push, it seems more reasonable in comparison. Another way is to adjust their own beliefs to match the other person's, and then slowly steer them towards the desired stance. Limited hangout. This happens when someone's secret plan or actions are exposed. So they admit to some of it to seem more transparent, but they still hide the most damaging facts. People often get distracted by the new information and don't keep digging for the whole truth. Loaded language. This is when specific words or phrases with strong emotional meanings are used to influence how people feel about something. It's like using words that tug at your heartstring to sway your opinion. Love bombing. This is a tactic used by cults or groups to recruit new members by showering them with affirmation. The goal is to make them feel special and isolated from their old beliefs and friends. Meliue Control. This is about controlling someone's communication and environment to keep them in line with the group's beliefs. It might involve using special slang or language that only group members understand. And if someone starts talking differently, they might get cut off from the rest of society. Obfuscation. This happens when someone purposely makes a message hard to understand. It's like they're trying to confuse you on purpose so you don't know what's really going on. Semantic Satiation. This is when a word is repeated so much that it starts to lose its meaning and impact. It's like saying a word over and over until it sounds weird and doesn't make sense anymore. Smear campaign. This is when someone deliberately tries to ruin another person's reputation by spreading lies or negative information about them. Testimonials. These are quotes either taken in or out of context that are used to support something. It's like using someone's words to try to prove a point or persuade others. Third-party technique. This is when someone tries to convince you of something by using a source that seems independent and unbiased, rather than someone who might have a personal interest in the outcome. Transfer. This is when positive or negative qualities of one person are shifted onto another person to make the second person look better or worse. It's like trying to make someone seem good or bad by association. Unstated assumption. Sometimes instead of directly saying something, people repeatedly hint at it or imply it without actually stating it outright. It's like expecting you to understand something without actually saying it. Whataboutism. This is when someone tries to discredit an opponent's argument by accusing them of hypocrisy without actually addressing the argument itself. It's like saying, "What about this other thing you did?" instead of focusing on the main issue. Misuse of statistics. This happens when someone manipulates statistics to change how people think about a certain topic. It's like twisting the number to make something seem more or less important than it really is. Operand Conditioning. This is a way of learning where behaviors are changed by rewards or punishment. It's like teaching a dog to do tricks by giving it treats when it does something right or scolding it when it does something wrong. Oversimplification. This is when people try to solve complicated problems by giving really simple answers. It's like trying to fix a broken car with just a hammer instead of using the right tools and knowledge. Appeal to prejudice. Appeal to prejudice is when someone tries to make something seem good or bad by using unfair stereotypes or biases. I will be making videos like this. Subscribe.